Alex Zander.
Alex Zander, okay.
Yep, Zander. Most people call me Zander.
Last name?
May, just like the month.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, welcome to Cast and Crank Podcast. Today we have Zander from Tackle Tour on.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you coming out, man. This is great.
It's in my backyard here, so it's no problem at all. I appreciate it.
Did you grow up here?
I did. Born and raised right here in Northern California.
Okay. Did you grow up on the Delta or just?
Yeah, this is home water for us. I grew up in the South Bay, Santa Clara area, so kind of started fishing some of the small ponds or lakes out there, and kind of graduated up to the Delta and Clear Lake.
Okay, so how long have you been doing Tackle Tour? It's been a while, right?
It has.
It's very popular.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been over 2 decades.
No way.
Yeah, it's been actually our 22nd year, so no longer a kid doing it. But yeah,
how old were you when you started doing it?
22 years ago, and I'm 46 now. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was literally a kid when I started.
Yeah.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. So when it started, how was it internet based? Like, kind of give us a history on everything that you started.
No, it's so when I started, well, I've been fishing pretty much my whole life, but kind of didn't bass fish until I kind of got to college. And then right around the time I graduated, I was going to college down in Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
And wanted to learn more about fishing, and I work in tech full time, and I was looking for stuff on the internet. Internet was still pretty new at the time, and most of the information that I was getting and everybody else was getting was in print magazines.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find anything about tackle or about specific tackle or different types of techniques. And I actually was talking to my buddies, and I'm like, dude, there's a lot of these websites for tech, but there's nothing for fishing. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna learn at the same time. I'm gonna start this process, and I'm gonna write about it. I'm gonna blog about it. And some of the other guys are talking to their fishermen, are like, that is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Who's gonna listen to you? And you're not even that good of a fisherman. I said,
I think that makes it better.
No, it's true. Exactly.
To me.
That was what I was looking for. I wanted to learn at the same time, but share that kind of process and everything that I learned. And I started Tackle Tour back then and wrote my first article back in 2000.
Do you remember what it was about?
It was about the Yamamoto twin tail grub.
Really?
Yeah, it was one of the first baits I actually got good at fishing.
What did it turn? Who turned you on to that, and how did you start fishing that?
Local tackle shops, actually.
What tackle shop was it?
I was at the time being out in Santa Clara. I was going to Coyote Bait and Tackle. And,
oh yeah.
Yeah, and Denise down there. Shout out to Coyote Bait and Tackle, and also Fisherman's Warehouse had a shop in Cupertino. So
yeah.
I was going and visiting those guys whenever I had an opportunity.
When you were in SLO, then you're not far from Tackle Warehouse.
I know those guys very well. Actually, I went to school with Rich, actually.
No way.
Yeah.
Because at Royal Grande, I remember Klondike, I think it was called. There's a pizza place there.
That is a great place. That's a great place to
There's
get a pie.
2 guys. I had yesterday. I was with Jeremy from Black Dog.
Okay.
And we talked to Mike Shaw, and Mike Shaw, I think, was from there too.
From the with
and
the
I'm
slammers.
like, what was the pizza place? He said Klondike. I'm like, yes, the best pizza I've ever had. Like, so good there. And I've always talked about that. If you're in Royal Grande or that way, it's SLO. It's good.
Yeah. Oh, SLO downtown. There's a lot of good eats down there. But yeah, the Tackle Warehouse guys are down there, and yeah, I had bass fishing roots down there in that
That's
area.
kind of crazy. You're on the edge of kind of like all this internet stuff. So at the time, you're just doing blogs. Did you start like a website?
It was actually. That was really before blogging even was like cool.
Yeah.
So I knew HTML. I coded the website myself. And started putting up articles and just writing as much as I could, sharing my experience, and really did that for about 3 or 4 years before it was kind of, I was doing it. I was getting some criticism as well too, and I was learning, and I started.
How were people reaching out to you then?
They were emailing me.
Okay.
Yeah, they were emailing me. I had different frames and things like that, so people had to scroll. It wasn't really a really well built site at the time. Not that it is now, but like it was really. I wasn't that good at it, and I was trying to get in touch with more manufacturers and learn more process. But I was still buying every single thing that I was writing and reviewing. And then right around the 4th year, it started to really blow up. It started getting, I was getting like thousands of impressions to starting to get hundreds of thousands of impressions.
Wow. And
on that 4th year, I decided, we really need to start reaching out to more manufacturers, and I need to get more information ahead of time before it's released. And I talked to my wife, and I said, I'm working full-time in tech, and I said, I have to go to ICAST. I have to go to ICAST and try to make some connections there and get in there. So I got in the car, and after work, I think it was a Thursday, and and we drove to Vegas, and I got into ICAST. I remember there was like four more hours before it was over, and I talked to the guys over there, and they wouldn't let me in. And I told them like what I'm doing and the website, writing articles, and they were like, I don't think you're press. I don't think you're media. At that time was way back then. ICAST was really just magazines and manufacturers. And I had to go to the business center and literally print out 4 articles that I'd written, bring it back to them. Because it was on paper. It was real. And they finally let me in.
Because you bring those articles. How stupid.
Yeah.
Man.
But so I got in there and finally started walking around, taking pictures, talking to different guys. And I actually met quite a few guys that had heard about Tackle back then. Mm-hmm. But I remember this really clearly, and this is part of our history. I was in one of the big reel manufacturers booths, and I was talking to some of the guys and taking pictures, and they pulled me aside and they said, "Who are you? What are you doing? You got to delete every single one of your pictures. We don't know who you are. We don't trust you."
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. They pulled me inside in the conference room. I had to delete everything. I explained to them what I was doing. They didn't believe me. They didn't care. So
did they think like you were a spy for another company?
I think so.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. I think they thought I was a spy. Either maybe for an overseas company. Who knows?
Here's this question: have you ran into that company since?
Yeah, we're good friends. So
how do you be so humble? I would be like, and I curse. I would be like, "Fuck you!" If I ran into him again, I would not deal with them.
So it didn't fester very long, because what happened was I got back home that weekend. I got beat up by some of these guys.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article, and back then I didn't have enough whole content to write many articles. I wrote an article just about ICAST. I literally was only in there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article, and 2 days went by, and that same manufacturer, their head of marketing, contacted me and said, "Dude, I've been reading your site for 2 years. I noticed you didn't write about us, and you were at ICAST."
Really?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I said, "Funny, you should bring that up." But yeah, no, they're a cool company. I won't say who they are, but
no, you don't have to.
They're part of the history now.
I guess that's where you got to learn to put the business face on as well, because it's hard, especially nowadays. It's like there's a lot of media.
Yeah.
So, but then you had to like really, like I would have probably done the wrong thing, because I just you know what I'm saying, but. You did the right thing, and that's really cool to see. Like, okay, you had a business-minded head already on.
It was early on. It was a humbling experience, but yeah, definitely learned from it, and like I said, made some friends in the process.
So then, once you went to the ICAST and you kind of got back, you got a little more people checking your stuff.
Yeah, as we started to work with more manufacturers and writing about stuff before it was coming out, some of the manufacturers started sending us a product to check out and write about before it was released. Then we got some more readership as well too. Another story, one of the manufacturers I really wanted to cover early on was G. Loomis.
Okay.
And I contacted the guys at G. Loomis. I literally cold called them.
Yeah.
And there's a guy there who has run the show on the marketing side, Bruce Holt.
Okay.
And I said, "Hey, this is what we do." And he's like, "Yeah, I've heard of you guys." And I said, I'd like to, if I could borrow some rods, I'll review them and I'll send them back to you. Mm-hmm. And, I'll get these write-ups. And he said, we're G. Loomis. We don't need write-ups. Everyone knows G. Loomis. And I said, "No, I understand." And again, a couple days went by, and I think he went on the site, read a couple articles, and he contacted me back, and he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll put you on our pro staff program. You can buy 4 rods a year at, our discount.
Whatever the discount
media
is. Yeah, okay.
And I said, "I appreciate it."
Yeah.
And we wrote a couple articles. I did that, and every single one of those, the sales went up instantly once the articles were posted. And then that fostered a really good relationship with Bruce. Actually, we became really, really close friends. But that's one of the cool things is that one by one, working with these different manufacturers, was able to meet these guys, build trust. And as we engage these guys more information came. It was a good service to the readers.
How hard is it when you find something that it's hard to give a review on? But this is another thing. What if you have a friend and he does something and it's a good friend and you're like, I can't. I mean, it must get hard sometimes, right?
I'll tell you what, it really isn't. I mean, we tell these guys straight up, we're going to write whatever we say. And people ask us all the time, like, I have manufacturers that still contacts us to this day and ask, how much does it cost for an article? Well, it doesn't cost anything. We've never taken a single penny for any article. We don't take money. We don't do contributor articles. We just don't do that. We'd rather just say what it is. And, our rule is that if a manufacturer sends us a product and we find a problem, we're not out to slam anybody, but we'll give them an opportunity to respond to that first before something goes live. But we're not going to hold publishing. Now, if the manufacturer's not working with us and we go out and buy the product ourselves, we actually still email the manufacturer or try to contact the manufacturer if there's a problem or a failure. If they don't respond within 30 days, we just publish it anyway.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, the readers are too smart. You have to,
if there's something wrong and everyone's experiencing the same thing, they're going to be like, you're called bullshit on that,
Absolutely. And it's funny too, because a lot of, there's readers that say, you're not harsh enough on the product. And then I'll tell you what, every single manufacturer always says, you guys are way too harsh on us.
Of course.
Right?
But they want to hear the truth. That's another reason probably people, watched what you've done so long. So when you had this site, for 5 years, you feel like you kind of like started figuring out what you needed to do.
Yeah.
Then did you have people reaching out to you more? Were you taking those, or you still wanted to reach out to those people? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, would you do one, say Iowa, say like, hey, we want to do one. Mm-hmm. Here you go. Would you be like, okay? Or would you say, I'm reaching out to you?
We typically build our own editorial calendar, and we base it on what we think is the most interesting or the most exciting new product. The manufacturers will tell us, like, we got this coming out with this. Sometimes it's a good fit, sometimes not. And early on, when we started the site, we tried to be like all things to everybody. I was like trout fishing and saltwater fishing, tuna fishing, salmon fishing. And honestly, I like bass fishing more than anything else, so we kind of gravitated that way. And I found myself, if I had the choice of being out in the ocean or being out here in the Delta, I'd rather be out here in the Delta, chucking different baits.
Yeah.
So, we kind of gravitated more and more towards freshwater and then more and more towards bass. And we still do some other stuff, but we found those audiences a little bit different. And that's why we really focus more on bass products more than anything else now.
Well, I think it's so big that the market, and I try to do the same thing, it's hard. Mm-hmm. Because people go, why don't you have more saltwater guys? I'm like, well, the ratio to listens is like I get a quarter of the listens on salt what I would do on a freshwater guy.
Right.
So much bigger, the market.
Yeah.
So it's hard to like, if you have a business as well, it's like, how do I put out something where not as many people are going to want to look at that product?
Right.
It's a hard one.
Yeah. And you really have to cater to the guys with the right type of content, right? We found early on that even though I wrote fly fishing articles, I'm not a great fly fisherman, but those fly fishermen, they really need an expert to break down their tackle.
That's a different,
talk about It's a totally different animal. So we started another site just for fly fishing, Demystify, and we have another editor-in-chief who fly fishes 100% of the time, and he just does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you got to focus on and really dig deep into each different application and type of fishing.
So then you also do swim bait.
Yeah. So
when did you start doing that?
Oh, early on too. Probably 5 years into it, I was throwing swim baits already.
Well, do you remember what bait your first review was on what bait?
The first review was probably like the LA Slider,
really?
Optimum baits, Osprey baits early on. I remember the first hard-bodied swim bait I threw was and reviewed was probably the AC Plug.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and that was hand painted by Alan.
Now, were you a big? Were you into swim baits at the time?
I was, but
I started getting into them more.
I wouldn't say that I realized the potential early on. Just like a lot of other guys, I saw people throwing them, and again, the early ones were really, really rough, and I'm like
wonky.
Kind of wonky, and they walked weird, but they caught fish, and I was interested in whatever caught fish, so that's what I started doing. I would say too, like when we publish those articles, I always can kind of gauge interest by the number of impressions that we're getting.
I do the same.
Right.
Same thing, yeah.
And when swim bait articles went live, and they're one of the most highly read pieces of content on the site.
This is so great because I'm in the same thing. People go, "Why do you have so many swim bait guys?" I'm like, people listen, dude.
People love swim baits.
They love it, and I'm like, dude. I mean, I could put a tournament guy on and it's great. People listen, but when I put Jeremy or Caesar or whoever it might be, it's like, those shoot up. They want to hear about that bait.
Yeah.
And it's not a new, I'm going to say it's a trend. It's been solid for a little while.
It's still growing.
And it's a genre, I think, now.
Yes.
More than it is just anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's its own thing. It's its own animal. And swim bait anglers are really different. They have different types of focus, right? They want to catch fish on swim baits. So yes.
Right. They're not going to just catch fish. It's like, I'm catching it on a swim bait.
Yeah.
I want this different gear that's completely different. Like, so the crazy thing is my gear is for calico bass,
Okay.
but it's pretty much swim bait gear.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how heavy, I go.
Well,
when I,
a lot of the best swim bait blanks are actually saltwater blanks.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know.
Back bounce blanks. And
Yes.
Yeah. I know you do a lot with Phoenix, right?
Yeah, they're a title sponsor.
Yeah,
of the
Phoenix.
podcast.
We review a lot of Phoenix
Yeah.
products, and they make some fantastic swim bait rods. We actually build our own custom blanks to test some of their blanks, custom rods, just to test some of their blanks.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
So you'll do blanks as well too.
So we don't review blanks so much as like review the process of taking a blank and creating a rod. Cal, the managing editor on our site, he's like kind of like he likes building rods. He's
More
like kind
techie
of a
into
line savant. He tests all of our lines. He loves doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, I love reels. I do love rods as well too.
Okay,
and
reels.
swim
I
baits.
have a great question.
Yeah.
What reels do you like fishing?
So yeah, I mean, a lot of guys will say like, tell me exactly what you like. I will tell you because like as part of
You're honest.
what we do on the site is I always tell people what I like, what I don't like, but I also tell guys early on like, don't just take my opinion and go buy a product. My goal is to tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it, what fails about it. If there's technically something that we see that could be better or worse, and then you take that information and you apply it to your own application and the way you fish, and hopefully that extra bit of data will help you make a decision.
Yeah.
We're not saying we like it, go buy it.
Yes.
That's not what we're about.
And that's the cool thing you said previously is like it's not a paid.
Yeah.
We're not coming. The company's not coming to me and say, "Hey, we're going to pay you for the thing." You're
Yeah.
doing your
Yeah.
own
Yeah.
thing.
And manufacturers offer us all the time, and we won't take it. It's just
It's good.
Yeah,
That's great.
But yeah, what reels do I like? So I go back and forth, and I say one of the things I do as well too is unfortunately I don't get to spend as much time with different tackle as I'd like to because I'm trying to move on to the next thing. I personally right now really like a lot of the Shimano product as well as some of the Daiwa product as well too. So on the spinning side, I use a lot of the Daiwa stuff.
You like the?
Oh yeah, the Exist stuff is phenomenal. And we'll say too, tackle tour guys are very tech savvy, tackle junkies, and we kind of gravitate a little bit higher end. So a lot of our guys read about the tackle and then go buy it at places like Tackle Warehouse, Tackle Trap.
And it's not cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're willing to do the research and then go buy the tackle. But then on the bait casting side, I use a lot of the Shimano stuff. I like some of the JDM stuff that's not available here as well too.
What makes you choose a Shimano over like? I'm a huge fan of the T-Wing.
You like T-Wing? Okay,
love it.
yeah.
What negatives? Like I love hearing what you think the T-Wing brings negative.
So
to it.
T-Wing casts great. On the line management side, some guys think it's just not as precise, especially on the casting side. I mean, the casting distance because of low friction is phenomenal. But I think some of the enthusiast guys kind of miss the non-T-Wing stuff as well too because it's just so precise.
Yes.
But on the Shimano side, what they have, and it does benefit swim bait guys, is the DC cast control. So that digital cast control, I'm addicted to the sound of that little scream and that little whine, right? Like when you're casting it out there and you hear it screaming. But you get that extra casting distance and especially that ability to bomb stuff through the wind. It's phenomenal.
I agree. I guess the saltwater thing is like, it's hard because now I got to separate my gear because it's like, okay, I try to keep these rods and reels for salt and then this, and I'm like, well, I don't want to have all of this gear. So it's hard for me to separate, but I'm like in the salt, I like Lose a lot. They're cheap, Hey, take care. I see me.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the things and you mentioned the T-Wing, and, Daiwa is a great manufacturer. There's a lot of real manufacturers out there that don't own their own factories. Daiwa and Shimano own their own factories,
right?
so they do their own R&D.
Isn't that crazy? Like,
Yeah, a lot of these other reels that you see out there are built in the same factory, which doesn't mean they don't have different technology and different designs, but that's an edge for Shimano and Daiwa because they get to implement new technologies quicker. They can change platforms. They can, get a little bit crazy with different form factors.
Yeah.
So that's one of the really cool things about those two brands.
Oh, I've fished both over the years, but I had to lose. I had to lose for 7 years.
Yep.
In the salt.
Yep.
Barely rinsed it, and it was great.
Yeah.
So that's why I bought them. I'm like, for spotted bay bass, it's like great.
Yeah.
But it's cool to hear different opinions on that because like there's some reels like, is it if you're getting into it or you just want to get another reel and it's $99, like a casking will probably work for a little while, or like a lose. You know, you don't have to spin, break the bank sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, when we first started doing this, it was pretty easy to find a bad reel. And it's pretty hard to find a bad reel right now.
Right.
I mean, the manufacturing has gotten so much better. I think all the manufacturers have, even the smaller manufacturers have gotten better. And like I said, even a lot of these manufacturers that are leveraging the same factories in Korea or in China, their building processes they spit out, millions of reels. So that kind of quality and consistency has gotten better across the board, even at that $99 price point.
That's kind of wild. I'm sure you've seen it over the years because you've been reviewing this, even rods, right?
Rods, yeah, we
Rods have
test
gotten
rods.
like so much better, right?
Yes. I mean, it's you used to be able to break rods pretty easily, right?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, rods have gotten a lot better. Processes have gotten a lot
Are
better.
you using Shimano rods as well, or do you have a different rod?
I use every kind of rod. I mean, I do fish some Shimano rods. My personal, like I said, we do return or we donate a lot of the tackle that we get. My personal stuff that I buy, I do a lot of finesse fishing with a lot of G. Loomis products still. Their Anorax Plus is phenomenal. It's very lightweight, super sensitive. A little bit, I mean, it's really hard to beat them on the ultra finesse side. But on the swim bait side, I love trying different things. I use a lot of Mega Bass. I like their stuff. Leviathan with their Omega rod. That's a bait
That's a nice
slinger. Yeah. And you mentioned Phoenix. They make great stuff.
iRod.
iRod makes actually really durable rods. He makes some fantastic rods.
It's crazy because you're on an open platform where you're not really on any side. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean,
it's hard to.
yeah.
I'm sure it's hard to like even, navigate through that because it's like you can't be like, well, you know what I'm saying? Someone's gonna ask your opinion. It's like I'm open. I'm Switzerland.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm absolutely try to be as unbiased as possible. You have to be opinionated when you're in this game. Because I tell you what I like, what I don't like, and it shifts too. I'll tell you what, for a while I was like, oh boy, when Shimano, I don't know if you remember, for a while they were leveraging the same platform and calling it different names, and I felt like at that time Daiwa had much better high-end product, and they kind of go back and forth.
I feel like Daiwa's really stepped it up over Fred Hall too. That was another one. They didn't have. Was it last year? I forgot what year it was. And then this year, there's no Fred Hall at all. I mean,
well, this whole COVID thing's just wreaked havoc on all the live events. So
Yeah.
it's really great to see you in person.
yeah, no, I mean, I did. I saw you last. I think both of you guys came in last a while ago to buy a bait, and we were doing podcasts.
I remember that actually. I saw you guys here, and
Yeah.
like we were coming in and talking to Caesar and loading up on some stuff.
Yeah.
we had just come off. Me and Cal had just come off a really rough day fishing out in the Delta. So we're
It was
like,
windy as hell.
oh, it was
that day, yeah.
super windy, and we said, you know what, we got to salvage this day. Let's go buy some baits.
Do you primarily fish the Delta?
I do spend a lot of time in the NorCal area here, Delta, Clear Lake, Berryessa, some local reservoirs as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. And you get to review all this stuff on all these lakes.
But
Right?
I try to travel as much as I can too. So I do travel to Texas and Florida as well too. Coast to coast and test in different applications. I have one rider in Florida as well too. So
Oh, really?
Yeah, we get to try it and different things in different areas. You just recently, I think. Talked to Jason.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Jason.
He's great, man.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
and he does some writing for us as well too. Yep.
Very well spoke. Like I was very surprised. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you see someone doing something cool, then you hear their backstory. I'm like, oh crap, you have done a lot of cool stuff.
Jason's done the homework. He's a really smart, very intelligent guy. He knows swim baits. Yeah, we're excited to have him.
When people come, I always hear talk to bait makers and they go, be original, something new. What do you think's next? I mean, you see all this tackle. You saw the A-rig thing. You saw the swim bait thing now. Plastics. You see anything different coming up? Like, was there some things that you keep your eye on?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It is easier to innovate with reels and rods, right? Because there's more factors that you can play with. You're seeing a lot of new technologies and new types of materials being implemented. Also, it's getting harder and harder to actually get some metals and materials. And, and with the price of everything going up, everything's getting more expensive, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of the rod guys are finding ways to make rods stronger and lighter. In fact, the review I just published, I think last night, was on the Steve's AGS, and that uses carbon fiber guides. I think you're going to see, more use of carbon fiber across reels and different rod components. On the bait side, yeah, because I've been so into swim baits lately, I'm just really excited to see how people are using resin in different ways. We can talk about the difference between wood and resin, but like resin's cool. Like resin baits are getting more and more consistent. People are
Yes,
doing
that's
things
the big
right
thing. Yeah,
with different joint designs and weighting them differently.
I'm big on. I like the ABS, or is it right? The
Yep.
plastic.
Yep.
I think that's the next thing for swim baits is to get some of these like guys to make an ABS version to be like kind of like SU did with that the Rego Rat. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like it's something that's a little better price point for you to
Yes.
get that more people can get. I think that's going to be the next cool thing.
Yeah, a lot of guys like are not into like they call mass production swim baits, right? They want to collect the garage swim bait, the handmade swim bait, that's hand poured resin, and I love those baits, and
Yeah.
and they are very collectible, they there's kind of an exciting custom build factor about it. But yeah, do not knock the mass produced baits because there's the benefit of those, and like you said, they're much more affordable. They're easily accessible to everybody.
And if you lose one, you don't.
You don't lose one, you're not going to friggin' go jump out of the water
Yeah.
and go swimming for it, maybe. But actually, they are more consistent because of the manufacturing processes and the way that they're built. They can be more consistent than garage built bait sometimes. And when you get a garage built bait that just works, it has it's the one that keeps getting bit. Sometimes I don't know if you have multiple baits from different manufacturers, but there's one that's hotter.
Oh,
yeah,
just
right?
a confidence bait,
Yeah,
too.
it becomes a confidence bait, and
Yeah.
it's got it right. But you don't see that as much with the produced baits. They all kind of swim consistently. They're all kind of the same.
Yes.
One manufacturer that I love, I love their product is Bait Sanity.
Yes.
Bait Sanity has been up in the game in terms of just building high quality
Recently,
baits.
they got a lot bigger. They have a lot of
Yeah,
traction too.
yeah. I mean, their Explorer Gills, we gave it an award. It's one of the best, I think, products in terms of like, consistency and what you're getting for the money. It fishes very much like a custom built bait, and it looks great. There's lots of finishes that are available.
No, I agree 100%. I love to hear something new, like
Yep.
where A-rigs were the thing. Like that was one thing I looked at. I did, and I think it's Out of Work Outdoors. They make a mono or a fluoro. I'm not sure. A-rig.
Uh-huh.
And I was
Yep.
very impressed. I'm like, wow, this thing's cool.
Yep.
That's something new. I'm sure you're keeping your eye out.
Yeah,
all the time.
Longest bait's out of Spain. They have an interesting bait that's kind of like a mini A rig, and it's got like a little paddle tail, but it's got two like fluorocarbon, basically like wires, and then it's got two other paddle tail swim baits on
Yeah.
it, and they have different kinds like that, so you can throw a smaller profile. And it comes like that out of the box, right? Sometimes with the A-rig, you have to do some customization, things like that. You bust out the super glue. These are right out of the package. You throw them. So yeah, that's cool to see new configurations like that. Just making it more easy and accessible for people to try different techniques.
When did you? So when you're doing the blog, the website.
Yep.
When did it change social media? When did you have to make some changes?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, I was late to the game with social media. So I'm definitely an old school guy, right?
Uh-huh.
So we consider ourselves very long form content. And yeah, we get into the weeds. Like our articles have over 3,000, 4,000 words. And, but yeah, I really kind of got into Instagram just a few years ago. I should have been there a lot earlier. We did YouTube really early on, but then we stopped doing it because honestly, like the ton of time, like you mentioned, and we didn't want to do it if we couldn't do it right. And there's a lot of great YouTubers out there, and I love their content. I watch it all the time. So we really focused on our long form content. But then I started really sharing a lot of stuff on Instagram. I love Instagram because it connects with a lot of people. And you can have a direct dialogue with people. And I've been doing that a lot more, both on the tactical side, but also on my personal Instagram as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go with the times.
Yes.
And it's hard because it's like you're used to this, but I guess everyone's looking for instant. Everything's instant now,
Yeah, people's attention spans is different now. People need quicker hits of information. Especially if you're out in the field and you need a recommendation or you need a quick hit on a technique really quick. Social media, it's hard to beat.
Yeah. Well, do you do any boat reviews or anything like that? Or
no? We started looking at that, but it's
a hard one. Huh?
Well, to do it right, I mean, we will do previews on not boats, but like different types of tackle that we can't delve into the same way that we do a review. We have a very quantitative process. For example, lines. We had custom built like a $10,000 line machine to test like tensile strength. Like if we can't do it to that level that we feel like we can get in that detail and provide like, a comparable quantitative review, then we won't do it.
So the line thing, that's great.
Yeah.
Who's the strongest line?
Ooh, so
I guess depending on the knot,
That's
right?
well, yeah. So you can test for knot strength, but when you're, the way that we do it and we wind it on this machine, the knot doesn't even come into play at all.
Okay, it's just a line.
And I will say, like, different lines have different strength, and we've seen, straight breaking strength. One of the best lines out there, and what I personally use is Seagar.
Me too.
Yeah, Seagar is phenomenal. I don't care if you're on the finesse side. Seagar Tatsu is expensive, but it's worth the money. And then if you're a swim bait guy, Seagar Tatsu and Gold Label is one of the best. And another thing that's different is a lot of the Japanese line manufacturers, they really rate their line based on diameter. Diameter is like a real, like, they don't upscale. For example, some of the U.S. guys, they rate their pound test, but they'll have a larger diameter line.
How does that work?
So basically, they've rated it for 12 pound, but if you look at the diameters,
It's bigger than that.
it's bigger. So it's not, it's now a
It's
Japanese,
like 13 or something.
well, yeah, a Japanese manufacturer, that comparable line would have been, a lower test line, because
Okay.
diameter and suppleness and how it handles, that's sort of key priorities for a lot of the Japanese manufacturers. But the American guys, I mean, we know that, or they know that a lot of the U.S. anglers are tough on their tackle. A little bit more power
Yeah.
applications.
Yeah.
Swim baits, that's a big application. So they kind of, overrate their lines. And what you're getting when you buy a 12-pound test line,
It's like a 14.
it
or
might be a
13.
14
Yeah.
or 13, yeah. But it's not going to break at 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's kind of the top? Let's say two, so you don't have to pigeonhole. Two lines that have held up to what they. I mean, I guess when you test them to see if they match the breaking strength,
We do, yeah.
and usually do most of them match it?
They do. So most of them do overrate, right?
Uh-huh.
They don't want. Nobody's going to underrate. Yeah, some of the American line manufacturers, they do a good job, but like you're actually getting a different diameter. A lot of the Berkeley stuff, I mean, they do that. They overrate it, but it's solid
Seagar's
line.
pretty much the.
I love Seagar,
and it holds up
yeah.
to the test.
Yep, and it holds up to the test. And another line that's typically very good is Sunline.
Oh, I know. I
Yeah.
thought that.
Yeah, Sunline's phenomenal. But I personally use a lot of Berkeley Trilene because we go through so much line.
It's worth it, right?
It's worth it. I use a lot of Sunline as well too. And then, I mean, we always actually write in the reviews like what line we're using.
Oh, that's cool.
It doesn't matter what reel we're using. And then we've been doing a lot more braid too, fluorocarbon as well too. But yeah,
What braids do you like using?
so I do use a lot of Sunline
Okay.
FX2.
Yeah, I haven't used that.
Yeah.
I guess it's funny because all my stuff's behind you. It's all Power Pro
Yeah.
because it's salt. It's like I'm used to just
Yep.
tie leaders on,
Yep.
and
Yep, Power Pro is really good stuff.
Yeah.
We use hollow braid. So Cal, I mentioned him earlier. I call him my armorer because he loves doing this stuff. He does like my hollow braid connections for me. Like I can't sit there and do that all day,
Yeah.
but he'll do that for me with my
that's
gold
cool.
gold label on top.
dude. No, I mean getting all the insights of this and I'm sure it affect your fishing a lot, right? Because you kind of like you're breaking numbers down, you're breaking reviews down. You're going, oh well,
Yeah. So there's so much data out there that I never claim to be the best fisherman. There are a lot of great fishermen out there, a lot of great fishermen that have that can go out and catch fish. It doesn't matter what tackle they're using. And I feel like I'm one of those guys that gets distracted easily because like I will try to, people ask me like, do you change the hooks out on that bait? And my honest answer is no, because I want to see if they're going to fail or not.
Yeah.
And I do not advise other fishermen to do that. I'm like, yeah, if you have problems with the hooks, change them out. But I want to see if they fail.
No, of course.
So I throw as much product as I can in their stock form. And then I'm constantly catch myself all the time, like looking down instead of looking up, because I'm looking at how that bait's coming or how that reel sounds or how that rod is bending. A lot of times I fish with manufacturers and they catch me doing that. They're like, are you fishing or not, man? I'm like, I'm checking out how your product's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be a hard one, and you got to turn that off sometimes when you're fishing, right?
I do. Yeah. I mean, for me, like, it's like, I try to fun fish sometimes, but like, there's always like a purpose. There's always a purpose. I'm always fishing with something new or trying something different. It's a blessing and a curse.
So right now, has it just been swim baits mostly, or you got other things?
Oh,
you like
everything.
going?
We got a ton of stuff in the works. Yeah, we always do swim baits. If you look at the content on the site, reels are the number one most read, followed by rods, and then actually swim baits. Swim baits is our third biggest category. So in any given period, we're always testing a new swim bait. but we're always doing rods and reels. And then on the flip side of the spectrum, we're going really deep this year into bait finesse as well too. So
What so you when you go to the site, is it broken down?
it is, yeah. Okay. It's in those categories, and you can right on the top menu you can see all the different menu pages, and there's over 1,000 articles out there on the site already. I mean, like I said, over 20 years of content. My whole life is on that site. So,
have you ever wanted to quit doing it?
No. So I do work full time in tech as well too. So this is actually for me a kind of like a release. It's a passion. I get to disconnect from my world in Silicon Valley to go do this. And so no, I mean there has been times in the past where I said, I'm going to go do Tackle Tour full time, but it's hard for me to walk away.
You never pulled away to do it full time?
No, because I love tech as well too, to be honest with you. I grew up with tech. I love what I do there. But yeah, there was a time I was going to do that, and then it's starting to really feel like work, and I actually prefer that balance.
Really? I don't think I'll ever do this full time, but it is getting taxing doing both.
It's tough.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
yeah. Oh, it's a balance. It's a tough balance.
It's hard.
Yeah,
like, and I mean, it's like, and I'm picky, so where I don't like doing the phone interview, so I'll come to you.
Okay.
But it makes it harder on me because I gotta travel. I gotta, make a 6-hour drive up here, stay the weekend, then go back home.
Right.
And then mix all. It's like it's some work. But like you, I'm very picky with certain things. Like I'm gonna put out a YouTube video. I don't really want to because it's not the way I want it. But it's my fault for forgetting the cameras. So I'm using Danny's, and I'm like, this is what we're gonna have to work with for the time being. And I'm sure you're the same way. It's like I don't want to put out something that I don't approve.
Right.
You know?
Right. Absolutely. You want to do it right. Just so like I talked about with YouTube, right? I definitely should be putting out more, some more YouTube content.
But you want to do it right.
But I can't do it if I don't want to do it. If I can't put in the time, or I know I can't.
Well, think about the time it would take to make a review that's a YouTube one as well.
Yeah.
Dude, that's gonna take you. Say you film a day.
Yeah.
Then you got to break the footage down for probably half a day. Then you got to, put it all together, and then it's probably like a 3-day process. It's like. And it's not your full-time job, so it's like you got to sub all that out.
It's a totally different, game as well too. So it's you got to.
Do you ever feel like that's a missing piece? That if I did that, could be a game changer.
There's different yes and no, but there are a lot of good YouTubers out there, and they fulfill a need. I think the guys that really want to dig deep, the guys that want to really read through that data, they still like a lot of the long-form content.
Yeah.
We'll give you just a little preview too. We do have another project that we're launching. Later this year. It's called Swimbait Skunkworks, and that is going to be more short form, and it's going to be more mobile kind of app focused, and that'll be much more quick hits information versus our long form stuff.
Is that going to be just reviews kind of on Swimbait?
It's not going to be reviews. It's going to be more quick hits like observations and schematics and tactical data on swim baits specifically. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a stank factor for each swim bait.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so get ready for
that's part of your passion is the swim bait thing, so you kind of enjoy that. You're like, hey, this is my deal. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, just like we talked about with the fly fishing. We have realized that the swim bait, it's no longer a niche. It's a culture.
It's a genre.
It's a genre. Yeah.
Like I feel like you could say I conventional, I swim bait.
Yeah.
I do that. Right. That's how it works.
Right. I mean, we're getting to that point with bait finesse too. Like we've realized that bait finesse is like on the total opposite side of the swim bait spectrum, and those guys need their kind of own.
Those are a lot more tournament guys. You think go to finesse?
Oh well, no, they're different too. They're just like we talked about with the swim bait guys. They want to catch bait on the biggest swim bait out there, or they want the biggest fish on the biggest swim bait.
On the lightest.
Oh yeah. These guys want to cast it. They normally we'd fish this on spinning gear. They want to catch the biggest fish possible on the tiniest bait with using bait casting gear, bait finesse, tight, corners.
How light are they going with the line?
Oh, below 8.
Because you can't. How do you cast? What reels are you using to cast this?
So manufacturers are now. It's so big. Manufacturers are now.
Is that like that BFS?
Yes.
That's what it is.
That's what BFS is.
Okay.
So Shimano Curado BFS.
How big is that reel? It's 100.
Oh, it's not that big. I mean, the reel sizes can be smaller or actually even mid-size, even 100, 150 size, but they have to do a lot of things to the spool in order to make the startup inertia so much less.
Dude, casting an 8-pound line on, it's impossible.
These guys do 4-pound and below sometimes.
Is it mostly trout? Are they doing?
They do trout, but they also do bass as well. Oh, yeah, so they're doing a bunch of stuff in lakes, reservoirs. There's lots of benefits to doing it in very tight quarters in a stream, for example. where you don't have the room or to have the time
And
to
you're
close your
using these
bail.
little jerk baits, like little mini jerk
It could be
baits,
tiny
right?
little jerk baits, or it could be little plastic swim baits.
What
as well,
turned you
too.
on to that?
The need, just like anything else.
Like, did you start researching it and like wanting to do it?
So a lot of times we base, what we write about on what the readers ask for. We have our forum. Guys are pinging us on social media. Guys are emailing us. And yeah, the bait finesse really has kind of taken off over the last decade as well, too.
Getting loud over here, these guys. Did you guys catch anything? Except a sunburn? No, did you?
Carl was fucking owning the boat.
No, but I'm interested in that because I think Manny G talked about
Okay.
doing it up there, and they do it for trout, I think. Up
Yeah,
in those
trout is really where it came from. It kind of originated from Japan as well, too.
areas. Nice meeting you, Mike. Take care, man.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. I would want to see the bass people doing it as well because,
Oh, yeah.
dude, how big of fish are people catching on this stuff?
Oh, they're big ones. I mean,
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. So the bait finesse guys, they just have to learn how to manage the fish on this, on these reels. They turn their drags real loose to protect that line as well too. And they're using special rods that are designed for bait finesse.
Are they smaller?
They are. Yeah, everything's a little bit smaller,
Mm-hmm.
very, very portable. I mean, it really came from Japan, where these guys had to fish highly pressured waters in these tight little streams. They got to hike to. Everything's a little bit smaller in Japan. You got to have breakdown rods and things like that. And bait
Are the
finesse grew
boats
from-
right?
Oh, the
They have
boats
the
are
boat,
tiny.
yeah.
Like a big bass boat over there is like a 17-footer, right?
Yeah. I had Kaz. It's Moroku Big Baits. He works for Optimum
Okay.
Peps, and he came on and he kind of broke down the whole because he's from Japan.
Yeah.
and it was super cool because his English was great. He thought it was horrible. I'm like, your English is fine, dude.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
I always tell these guys, like, we won't even try speaking Japanese. Like, yeah, I don't know how you're doing this in English. It's amazing.
yeah. So I'm like, dude, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But it's he said it's the line size stuff like that. You got to change it up because it's like SoCal lakes.
Yeah.
So much more pressured than up here.
Super pressured. Yeah.
Do you try to get down there and fish sometimes?
Not as much as I'd like.
Really?
I'd love to go down there more. It's just, it's like you said, it's kind of a trek, dude. But I'd love to. Yeah.
Oh, and it's like people don't know. Like I thought it was your full time job as well. You know.
Most people do. A lot of people don't know this is, I live in two different
Yeah,
worlds.
no, that's
yeah.
great. And the time you put into it, like I can completely appreciate that since I do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's a grind, but at the same time, it's one that you love, right?
So what's your main goal, like your outlook for the next, say, like 5 years? Because you've been doing it for 22
years now. I feel
You're gonna have to hand it off. I mean, thinking another. 15,
I'm gonna keep doing it as long as I enjoy it, and we get great feedback from readers. We're still getting over 1 million impressions a month. I just keep
That's
on going.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's a lot of impressions.
It's as long as there's a need out there and the readers appreciate it. Honestly, the most rewarding thing is when a reader says like, "Oh, you saved me money," or I bought something, or I made a decision based on what you wrote about, or it was fun reading that review. And I'll tell you what, a lot, because I've been doing it so long, I work with so many manufacturers now that actually grew up reading Tackle Tour. It's crazy. I've actually met some custom swim bait guys that said, "Oh, I came.
Isn't that crazy?
I came home every day and I read the Tackle Tour article." Like they grew up reading our stuff, and that makes me feel old, but at the same time, it makes me feel great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're influencing a ton of people by doing what you're doing. And it's something different. And I mean, it's always cool to see something different. That's what I always say. And you've been doing it for a long time, so respect, of course.
I appreciate it. I think for me, as long as I enjoy it, and you mentioned 5 years, we want to keep growing. We're coming out with this new swim bait oriented, kind of spin-off site app. But at the same time, just keep having fun. I'm starting to take more time to enjoy my time out in the water a little bit more. Dig a little bit deeper into these different applications.
You ever got a cease and desist from someone that got mad at you?
Well, I'll tell you what, we get manufacturers that don't talk to us anymore, for sure. I mean,
and it's not like you're doing a negative review. It might be just like you're saying what you think.
Well,
that's a hard one. Will you stop reviewing their stuff because they don't know?
I mean, if there's a need for it, we'll keep writing about it. I'll tell you a story too, and it actually involved a swim bait.
Okay.
There was a swim bait that we reviewed from a mass production manufacturer, Japanese manufacturer.
Really?
And we wrote about. You can find it on the site. It was the.
You can't say what.
Oh, sure, I'll tell you. It's Lucky Craft, Rio, California.
Okay.
And as we were throwing it, and these weren't prototypes. We were buying them. and they would lay on the water, and we had a couple blow apart. Literally, the metal spring in the bait.
This is for
opened
what
up.
bait is it?
The Lucky Craft, California.
What is that?
It's a swim bait. It's actually a
Really?
injected swim bait.
Okay.
And we contacted the guys there, and they didn't respond. So, but we knew him, and we knew we'd see him at ICAST too, and we wrote exactly what it was. I think it got maybe a 4 or 5 on the out of 10.
But I mean, at the same time, you can get mad, but you can also appreciate someone going, "Hey, you need to fix this."
Yeah.
You know what I'm
we
saying?
literally said that. We're like, this bait needs to be fixed. So we went to ICAST that year, and we walked into the booth, and they saw us come in and looking at the baits, and the guys came. They held the California, and they put it on the table, and they said, "We fixed it."
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean,
they did not engage us, but they read the article and they fixed it. They showed it to us. They doubled the size of the wire.
did you redo the review?
We updated the article. We did it. We told them what we got from the manufacturer. We fished it, and we didn't break out any baits to casting it, fishing it, none on the fish. So yeah, we didn't. I think we might have. I don't know if we
Maybe
changed
a
the score.
ground 2 or something.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But we did update with the updated information. So, I think the good manufacturers out there, they take the information and they make it better. And manufacturers can disagree with us all the time, but we won't change articles unless they can really convince us that the data is wrong.
How many times has this happened?
We get feedback from manufacturers on every
No,
article.
but how many times have you had like someone come back and go, "Hey, you're right. We fixed it."
Probably half a dozen times.
That's great.
Maybe half a dozen to a dozen times. Yeah.
So I mean, think about the influence you've had, like on some people, like maybe not opening. I guarantee a lot of companies have yes men. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to.
Yeah, sometimes we'll deal with the guys that are on the marketing side that aren't as familiar with it. We love working direct. We love those guys because they give us information as well too. But we work very closely with the product management guys. They're guys that are actually building and designing the tackle.
Yeah.
And I think those guys are very interested in the input. So I will say we work with also a lot of manufacturers, and if they send us product that is pre-release, we will share all our feedback with them so that they can make any changes if they want that feedback.
That's great.
And some of them do on the rod side, on the bait side, on the reel side. We also fish prototypes well too, but we will never release a review unless we've tested a mass production product.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least you reach out to the people as well before you release a review. It's kind of like when I do podcasts, because we'll get crappy sometimes drinking. And I'll tell guys, I'm like, "Hey, if something bad said, I'll listen to it. I'll be like, "Hey, you want to listen to this before it goes out?" Just because I appreciate when people come on. I go, "Hey, you went out of your way to come on. I'm not going to put out something negative because, and I feel that I'm happy that you feel comfortable enough to speak openly to me."
Oh yeah, no,
and it's the
absolutely.
same. I'm the same way.
Yeah,
with that.
I mean, we've always taken the tack that we're trying to be positive. We're not looking to go out and slam anybody, but at the same time, we're not going to hold back if there's something wrong with the product. And like I said, the good manufacturers, they'll take it as input.
There's one product I always talk about that not a lot of people dig into. I want to, I have an idea for one. A lead heads. You don't get a lot of overflown like you would do plastics.
Yeah.
Overblown, I'm sorry. Where plastics or even swim baits, there's a lot of swim baits. You don't get a lot of people making different lead heads.
Yeah.
What are some lead heads you like?
So I actually mostly try to fish as much tungsten as possible.
Really?
To be honest with you, just because there's the environmental benefit as well too. But I think with tungsten, you've got that much lower, smaller and profile.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the way it sounds as well too. So I don't do as much with lead unless it's inside the actual swim bait itself that's embedded in there. But yeah,
Well, you do like heads, say like war baits or something like that.
Yeah, you mentioned war baits. We've reviewed their stuff. I love their stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, war baits is a very high quality product. I like their paint finishes. They're very, very durable.
Yeah.
Another manufacturer people should check out is Nishine up there from Canada.
Okay.
It's kind of like Canadian domestic product, but it's almost got a JDM feel. Hiroshi does some fantastic heads with really good profiles that swim really nice, and they go through the weeds really nice.
Yeah, that's another.
It's got a smelt head that is a great swim bait head for paddle tails.
Have you ever thought of making your own bait? You've done so much research and you see them so much. You ever thought about making your own bait?
So I've made my own swim baits actually.
Not production,
but
just
no.
for yourself.
So here's why. But I mean, one, because it's kind of cool to make your own bait and catch fish on it. I totally get that. But because I felt like I wasn't qualified to talk or write about a bait or criticize somebody else's bait until I did it myself. And as I was studying the difference between resin baits and wood baits. I started hand carving my own wood baits, and I did both rats and glides. And I'll tell you what, people always, say like, why is that bait $180, $250? I'll tell you why. After you've been carving a bait and your hands are hurt and you're bleeding, and then how hard it is to airbrush a bait, that's why that bait is that expensive. And then the weighting and the way that the lip angles are and the shapes of them, there's just a million different factors that can change the way a swim bait works. And so yeah, that's a great question. I made my own baits.
That's cool
just
to see
appreciate
that.
it. Yeah.
Or to even review, be like, hey, I tried it. It's hard. I'm gonna give you a review. These guys put their time in, and I try. It's hard.
Yeah, no, just the amount of time that I have a lot of respect for these garage builders, because I'm sure they've had a million iterations. I love seeing actually prototypes during the process and how they've changed the lip angle. And boy, they must have had to abandon a bunch of stuff and swim test, a lot of different baits. It's crazy. It's
even I talked to Jeremy. I'm like, we were talking yesterday. I'm like, how long did it take you to carve the first one? He's like, 3 to 4 hours.
I know.
I'm like, no way. He's like, in the beginning, now it'll probably take me 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I know what I'm doing. But in the beginning, it's like, it took me forever.
Yeah, and 3 or 4 hours is like 3 weeks for everybody else. I mean, I tell you what, those guys are master builders, right? Yeah, we worked with Black Dog early on, actually. Yeah, with Jeremy and Grant when they first started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was super crazy. It's crazy to hear all the backstory or even the longevity of some of these companies that have been around.
Yeah.
Garage Built, been around for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jeremy's kind of one of them. And I mean, do you remember reviewing? So did you see the 250 come out when it first
Yes, yes. We have a review early on from that bait. That is one.
And was it magical then when you got it?
Dude, it was the OG, man. So that is one bait that you pick up, and like when I first saw it and I felt the skin on it, I'm like, dude, this thing looks like a toy, dude. Like
it's different though. It was completely different.
Right? But I was like, all right, try it.
Yeah.
And went out there, and I remember fishing it for bass, and then giant striper started crushing it.
And you're like, what?
I'm like, what is like, yeah. And one of the cool things about it is it's super durable, and that skin holds scent really well. It's like it's just a great bait, and it's the OG.
Do you do scent reviews as well?
We have in the past, and that's a tough one. Like people ask me, like, yeah, what about scent? I'm not sure that scent, pulls in a lot more fish. I haven't experienced that myself, but I definitely feel like fish hold on to it longer.
You do.
That's what I use it for.
Okay.
And another thing for soft body swim baits, I feel like it goes down a little easier, and it gives you a chance for you to really get the hook into them. So scent as a kind of like a lubricant, but also having fish just hold on to it a second longer.
We've had like a lot of people are for it. A lot of people are like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think at night it could help a lot.
Yep.
But it all depends on what you're.
I mean, I'm not one that typically uses scent a lot, but I will paint it on some baits sometimes. Like if that
paint
bite,
it. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, some of that stuff is super stinky, dude. I'm not gonna touch it, dude. I'll take a paintbrush and I'll paint it on there and I'll chuck it out there.
Yeah.
See if it makes a difference.
Yeah. No. That's something that I love talking about, all these little nuances. And, you could get so deep into hooks and everything.
Yeah.
That's another hooks. You kind of got your basic, Gamakatsu.
Gamakatsu and owner.
That's
yeah.
I mean, there's other ones. EMC. And,
SU is coming out with their own hooks now. Yep.
Right. Isn't it wild?
Yep. I mean, like I said, I do test hooks, but at the same time, I like to fish the hooks that come with the bait to see, how they hold up.
And it's the originality of the bait. You're not touching it. You're not doing anything to it.
Yeah. I don't want to modify it. Now, after I've, played with it a long time, my favorite type of swim bait is a rat. I do customize a lot of rats all the time. Like, rats are my jam.
Do you like throw them at night a lot, or just all the time?
Yeah, I love night fishing, low light, early morning. As much. I mean, whenever it's warm out, I'll throw a rat, dude. That's the first. I always have a rat tied on. If you look at all my Instagram pictures, like there's always like 3 rats on deck. Yeah, yeah.
That's so cool. Let's plug where they can reach everything. Articles, everything, Instagram, so people can find everything.
Yeah. No, it's tackletore.com. Pretty easy to find us. And, anytime 50% of our traffic comes in from search. So if people are just looking for stuff, they Google reviews, they'll find us. And then on Instagram, you'll find us on Tackletore or Zander Tackletore. That's me.
Super cool, man. I feel like you're doing what I am doing, but I'm doing it later. Like I'm only a couple years in, but it's cool to see someone take that hobby and push forward with it this long. It gives me going, man, as long as I could talk my wife into it, and I can keep going, longer and longer. I'm sure you know.
No, well, I appreciate you, man. I think it's awesome what you're doing. It's a different format, different content. I love listening to your podcast when I'm driving. So
Appreciate it.
yeah,
I
thank you,
appreciate it.
thank you for having me.
So we'll do another one soon, guys. And like I said, if you were around, you could have been part of the Delta Roundtable. But
I'm going fishing, man.
all right, thanks again. Appreciate it.
All right.